Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
We have to get back to producing, growing, and prospering. Necessary precautions can stay in place, but we need to be America again. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on this Wednesday, April the 15th. Good morning, good morning. Call in with the pledge, please. And a good morning to you and yours. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and we really want to make a great big shout-out thank you to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open and serving you. Safe, clean environment with the best in tires and service to you and your automobile. Stop in and see them today. Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning again, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Buddy, listen, turn up the feed line to me just a little bit more, please, Wheels. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And right now we're going to go to the weather forecast. And, of course, our weather brought to you by K&R Rental. Roger and the crew at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. It's springtime. Can't you tell by the weather? I mean, blowing and cold, and then the next minute, sunshine and warmer. And, of course, it's time to get your garden all set up and your lawn taken care of. They've got all the power rakes, all the garden and lawn equipment, all the rototillers. They've got it all for you. The best of tools and equipment for long and short-term rental at K&R Rental on the Burley-Paul Highway. Have questions? Give them a call, 678-3122, K&R Rental. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's going to be breezy for today and some rain showers off and on. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are going to be in a wind advisory for today. Gusts as high as 40 miles an hour. Steady winds out of the west at about 20 miles an hour. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 55. Those showers could continue for tonight, possibly changing into snow in the higher elevations. Still, the wind is going to be a consistent gust as high as 45, possibly 50 miles an hour. We are expecting a low right around 28. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. The winds are going to be dying down, high of 48 with an overnight low of 22 by Friday. Sunny with a high near 57. Saturday, mostly sunny, mid-60s. That's what's the weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
And right now, it's not too shabby outside. 46 degrees outside the Zeb at the Ranch studio. K&R Rental with Roger and the crew. They get there early in the morning to serve you at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. And again, if you have questions about all the tools and equipment you may need for a job, just give them a call before you stop in, 678-3122 on the Burley-Paul Highway, K&R Rental. Want to also give a great big shout-out to Ramsey Heating and Electric this morning at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. You know, they have rode the horse for a long time on this show, but they've been in business now going on 7 decades. I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, what a great family and what a great business with people that really know and understand your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. All you need to do is stop into 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley or give them a call at 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. The best Ramsey Heating and Electric serving you. I have a feeling I know who this is. Good morning, caller. How are you?
Good morning to you, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
You know, obedience brings blessings. Strict obedience brings miracles. You know, this is posted on my bulletin board the day before my daughter went off to college. She is now 54 years old. Just advice that we should adhere to.
To a point. To a point. I'm not going to say that I'm going to swallow that hook with a worm on it, hook, line, and sinker, because I will not be obedient to something that is evil or an endangerment to my freedoms or my family.
Well, when she wrote this, I think it was more of a religious thing in her mind because, you know, she said blessings. And so we've always abided by it and always will.
Well, Keith, you've got to be a little discerning there. I do not think you're the kind of individual that will be obedient to something that is wrong, something that is evil, something that may hurt someone else. I don't think so.
Well, I guess it is a matter of opinion.
It may be a matter of opinion, but to be obedient to something that's evil and wrong is to be obedient to the devil and to be obedient to something that is against morality. And I won't do that. There's got to be some discernment there, Keith.
Well, I think you're right in that respect.
I know I'm right.
But, you know, if we follow the Scriptures, and I'm not trying to bring church into it, but if we are obedient to what the Scriptures have told us right out of the Bible, we will have blessings. Do you agree?
I'm not arguing with anything in the Bible about absolutely praising, honoring what God's gifts are and what His Word says it will provide for us if we have the faith and believe. But what I'm telling you is that if somebody, and it's very possible it could happen in this next election, God forbid, but if somebody gets up there and tries to play the point of thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not see your neighbor, you shall not talk to anybody, you are not allowed to leave your house, I'm not going to be obedient to that kind of kingdomship.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. There's no question about that. But if we will follow our teachings, what we've been taught when we were children ourselves, we may be a lot better off.
Well, there's no question about that, and I'm not going to harangue with you back and forth on this thing, but you can't say that the statement that was written by your daughter is an all-encompassing statement, because it's not. I can see where it would be very applicable to the goodness of life and to the beliefs in the Bible, but you can't use that same words or the same verbiage and say that it applies to when there's evil in our lifestyle, that we should be, just acceptance of it. I can't do that, and I won't.
Well, let's look at it this way. She was somewhat of a child when she wrote this. She was probably 18, and she was more or less referring to our family.
Okay.
And she is always, well, she's the kind of person that wouldn't tear a tag off a mattress.
Okay. That made me chuckle because I just ripped one off my mattress the other day. Anyway, Keith, I do appreciate your comments, but I just think that you have to have an open end on that statement, because I'm certainly not going to abide and make appeasement for anything that I consider to be evil and against morality and against the Bible. So I can't do that. I appreciate it very much, Keith. God bless you and your wife. Appreciate it.
It's worked well for you up to this point. Keep doing it.
All right. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. Don't forget Dino Septic Service. Absolutely. These are people that really, really, really do the job you don't want to do. You don't want to be out there standing with your hands in your Wranglers going, golly, I sure don't like pumping this septic tank, or golly, I sure don't want to mess around with the sewer and sink drain line cleaning. They do. They do. And they do a great job, too. Fast, fair, friendly service. Dino's Septic Service. Call them at 436-6526 or 678-1638. I mean, these people go over to your property and they get the job done right. Absolutely. Dino's Septic Service. Call them today, and they'll pull in the yard with that big truck that says, Smells Cargo, on the way to serve you. Dino's Septic Service. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk to you a little bit more about this coronavirus in just a moment. And many of you may not agree with what I'm saying. That's fine. But I'm going to say it anyway, and we'll have a discussion over it. And the numbers to call, naturally, are 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Quickly, I also want to tell you about Jeff and the crew. That Jeff over at Magic Valley Irrigation, what a nice guy, and his crew so professional in being able to provide you all your irrigation needs. That's right. They've got experts over there at 44 East, 500 South of Burley. And the numbers to call, 678-3101 or 431-3101. Magic Valley Irrigation. Believe me, they're there to serve you with the best of U-bends, handline risers, Healy arc welding pumps, manufacturing wheel line elbows, so much more. You be sure and get a hold of Magic Valley Irrigation. What's happening with this virus, the coronavirus, is so sad and so frustrating. It's almost like, and think about this carefully, it's almost like lives and living doesn't mean much anymore. A terrible killing virus was released by an inhumane nation, and they are, the government absolutely despicable, China. And now it has created havoc in over 180 countries around the world. And all the lives that have been lost. For what? Why? These people did nothing wrong. China's government and so-called scientists poisoned the world, and they've destroyed families, and it's not an oops. You suffered, and so have I. And I got to thinking about this last night. Pardon me for adding my little personal sketch into this. Deanne and I were so looking forward to my oldest grandson's last high school baseball season and his graduation. It's gone now because of China. We were looking forward to high school rodeo season with my grandsons. My second grandson was the state champion team roper last year. Now it's gone because of China. Business opportunities and being with friends and absolutely doing things, and I'm not getting any younger. I don't know how much time God's got left on my calendar, but that's gone right now because of China. I've been scared, and I'm not ashamed to admit it to anybody. I've been scared, really scared for my wife's health, because of an underlying condition she has, And that all because of China. All of us are losing our savings or a major portion of it. I'm trying to keep this program afloat. And we're living like we're in jail, all because of China. And the lives that were lost, that will never get up in the morning again and look at the sunrise and enjoy God's greatest gift, that being life, is gone because of China. And it's filthy, absolutely filthy conditions and inhumane treatment of people, not only their citizens, but the world. And I don't want anybody to call me and criticize my personal revulsion of China. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Boy, that makes tears come to my eyes, Zeb, the way that that's done. But you know, when I called earlier and I was talking about obedience, I mean like this deal in South Dakota, this meatpacking plant that ignored all of the warnings that were put out there, offered people $500 bonuses if they would just come to work, and using hairnets for their face masks.
Yeah.
And look what has happened.
Yeah.
It has become a very big disaster there.
Yeah, it has. I'm not arguing, nor would I argue your point there, but I absolutely am not going to adhere to the word obedience to anything that the government wants right now to control me or my future. You're not a spring chicken anymore either, Keith, and neither am I. Every day is a gift. And I will not allow someone or some being or some government to take it away from me without having absolute revulsion for them and speaking out.
But isn't this meatpacking plant...
I don't want to get into the meatpacking plant, Keith. I don't even want to talk about that right now this morning.
But the problem is they're furthering the spread of this disease. You know, they didn't listen to anybody.
They're not the only ones that have caused this problem or furthered the disease or the pandemic of the virus. They're not the only ones. There has been a lot of mishandling of information and mishandling of how to go about your daily lifestyle if they're called a business that's a necessity. Okay, there's been a lot of mishandling. We can't go in and just pick apart the meatpacking plant or maybe a car dealership in California or maybe a processing company, a factory that stayed open and all this. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. We had this thing brought to the world and this country because of the despicable country and the government of China. That's my point right now this morning.
Yeah, but let's look at Chobani there in Twin Falls. They've continued to operate, but they tried to follow the rules.
Well, fine. There's a lot of people that are following the rules, and I applaud them for the face masks and the social distancing, all of which proves to me that you can stay in business if you use a little common sense, like the social distancing, maybe not having chairs and tables so close together, not shaking hands, etc. We could have kept a lot of businesses open, and we wouldn't be in the financial straits we're in right now.
That's absolutely right. And really is a good example of it. We've only had one death as a result of this.
One death too many.
We must be doing something right.
One death too many.
Well, I agree to that, too.
Okay, my friend, I appreciate your call.
To be agreeable.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental Sales Service and Parts, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. Don't forget they've got a completely new inventory for this year, and they've got all the Bobcats, all the trenchers, all the scissor lifts. They've got all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. Got it all for the jobs of lifting, digging, pushing, carrying, everything. Get a hold of them today. They can help you. Berry Equipment and Rental, Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, you hit the nail right on the head when you said common sense. If people would just use common sense through this, we'd be done with it in a hurry.
I'm not about to advocate everybody just kind of going up to somebody and putting their arm around their shoulder and trying to whisper in their ear, boy, it's good to see you there again, my friend. I don't want anything like that, but I maintain, and I think you already have said you agreed with me, that all of these closures, which I think were absolutely frivolously stupid, if people would have used common sense and there would have been dictates like, okay, you can wear a mask and plastic gloves when you go into this business, and the business could have provided that for them at the door. They could have done their shopping, paid at the register, and everybody's still in business. I think that a little common sense and study of the issue would have saved our economy a lot of money.
Oh, I totally agree. And, you know, the sad thing about it is, and not everybody is in the same boat, but I keep saying there's stupid people who quit doing stupid things. Follow the rules. Who decides who gets to stay open and who gets to close? Close everybody down for 2 weeks, 14 days, 14 to 21 days. That's not going to kill their business. We could get rid of this thing in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but Donna, we've already suffered through over a month and a half, and and now to say another 2 weeks, I just can't abide by that. It's something that should have been done up front. I maintain, and you can go back and check the tapes of the program. My guru on the computer that does all the taping, John Ellis, can prove my point. I said initially, if we're going to shut it down quickly. Let's get this thing over with and handled. I remember the program. It was on a Wednesday morning that I said that about 5-6 weeks ago, and I took a lot of criticism over that. But if we'd have done it like you said, we probably would have been further ahead. But closing businesses now and leaving them closed, we have got to get back to work.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I meant. In the beginning, if we had done that, everybody, all the businesses, not just, you know, certain food stores or whatever, this could have been handled. And, you know, President Trump is doing a really good job of keeping us informed about what's going on. And nobody wants to praise him for the people
That's right.
that he's saved.
That's right.
They're damning him for the people who have passed away. And I feel bad for those families. But if we could get back to where we were before, it'd be great.
You are spot on, my dear friend, and you and George mean a lot to me. Stay safe over there, and go wake up the sleeping bear.
I'm going to try.
Okay.
And you and your lovely bride have a good day, and you guys stay safe.
All right, God bless. Thank you. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Morning, Zeb.
Yes.
My take on this is our economy should have kept going little at a time, but you're right. Now we definitely have to have it open. We need it open. And your last caller hit it right on the head. Use common sense. You don't need to. I've been treating this like the flu season, the flu epidemic going around. I don't get into people's personal space. I don't go visit those I really don't need to go visit. If I had to go to the store or get fuel for my truck, I mean, I take care of myself. I wash my hands. I just look after myself like my mom taught me to when I was growing up. Personal hygiene. And I think a lot of this wouldn't have happened. But now I'm afraid our economy is so far gone, Are we ever going to be able to pull it back, or is this going to be another depression what the Democrats wanted, so we can lose everything?
Yeah, and there was a comment made during the CBS News at 8 o'clock that absolutely it wrinkled my saddle blanket, I'll tell you that. They said, this one Democrat said, I think we should leave the economy and businesses closed until 2022 so we can make sure that the virus is done. And Nancy Pelosi said the same thing yesterday. We can't even begin to think in that kind of tunnel vision. This country, America, would cease to exist.
One thing we have going for us, and we've had going for these great United States for a long, long time, is the American fighting spirit. And we have fought through depressions. We've fought through 2 great world wars. We've fought through many other wars. We've fought through administrations who were out to destroy us. And we have a fighting spirit, and I'm hoping that it's still there in the newer, younger generations that will fight for what they need and for what they deserve, what they earned.
Absolutely. Riley, I appreciate always your comments in the morning. Thank you, my dear friend. Appreciate it.
You be safe, and I'll catch you when I get back around.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. You know, maybe you don't agree. Maybe you think, gee, we better shelter in place for an extended period of time. According to some Democrats like Pelosi and others that would love to see the demise of America. 2022? 2022? I honestly thank the good Lord above for our great medicine and our great scientific values that we have in this country. And I have a very strong faith that doctors, scientists, researchers are going to come up with something that will be very appropriate in fighting this coronavirus. But I also, against China, hope and pray that the government that is leading that absolutely terrible country, it's not the people, it's the government, will see their demise. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. This Chinese leader over there makes Stalin and Hitler look like a bunch of amateurs. He will do anything to destroy the economy of this country. The only thing that keeps this country from breaking down and have rioting all over is the fact that he's got an army that's kept his population so depressed they can't move, they can't riot, they can't do anything else.
Your point is so well taken.
China's problem is they want to take the rest of the world over and do the same thing to us and every other country.
That's right.
On the planet by
That's right.
Our economy.
Please keep in mind, though, that President Xi of China is not the only person or figurehead involved in this mess. There are so many behind the scenes in a very radical, inhumane, couldn't care less country as China. Again, I do not point my finger at the citizenry. I point my finger as to the government that has been one of the worst governments ever on the face of the earth for human rights. There aren't any. And the treatment of their people, it's deplorable. And I wish them nothing but total damnation. And I mean that when I say it.
Well, the citizens would uprise in a minute over there, but they would be cut down to be another Tiananmen Square over there, all over China.
Yeah.
If they even tried to riot.
Well, Tony, to you and Mary, I know you're a little older than I am, but I want to extend to you, please, we've got to hang in there, we've got to keep fighting, and we cannot just subsist. We've got to get out and enjoy what God has given us for a life. Please be safe, my friend. God bless you.
I'm not housebound. I'm out there with everybody else. I go to Home Depot and all the rest of the place.
Good for you. Good for you.
So if my time is up, I'll go like everybody else. In the meantime, I'm going to keep on stroking.
Tony, I wish there were millions more like you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Hoss, this is a Chief.
Yeah, Chief.
Hey, they had one of these experts on last night. This gal had been working with viruses and this research for years, and she was saying that this big shot doctor that's on Trump's team is responsible for that lab in China, that he, unbeknownst to everybody, including the president, he was financing this lab in China.
No.
And the virus is a weaponized virus, and that the human body has never been exposed to this type of virus, and it goes after your white blood cells and messes up and causes you to have blood clots and all kinds of horrible things. And the only way that they can get a inoculation for it is if they get enough people that survive the virus with their own body's immune system, and so far they haven't been able to do that.
Well, there are many.
It may be possible that it can never be a virus that's curable, and there's possibly the fact that the inoculations and stuff may be contaminated to cause different rounds of other horrible diseases, including possibly oral cancer.
Well, we've got a lot of speculation there, Chief, and I'm not going to go into speculation. I only deal in facts. I do appreciate your call this morning, and I'm going to hash over some of the points you made. Thank you for your call. Have a wonderful day. Stay well, my friend. Stay well. Thank you.
I'm old enough now, maybe if it got me and everybody our age, that would be something that we could deal with. But what about my grandkids and stuff?
Absolutely right. I personally am not ready to cash in my chips at the table yet because I'm going to keep on fighting, but I understand what you're saying.
Let's do all this and let's do all that. Well, it just barely peaked yesterday. They had 2,300 people die in New York.
But there is a center of contagion there in New York that is not elsewhere around the United States. They are the highest center of contagion. And let's look at other areas that can and should get back to work. Please.
But it could be a disaster if they opened it up too soon and then we had another serious round. They have no clue how to fight this.
I appreciate your call, Chief. Thank you so much. Thank you. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Quickly, go ahead.
Top of the morning to you, sir.
You know, I want to respond quickly while I get a moment. Chief was on the air a minute ago, and, there's no way that the doctor that he was talking about, whether it was Birx or Fauci, were contributing their own pocket money into a lab over in China. That's not the case. I will say this. I think that laboratory and those wet markets absolutely they need right now, of the 180 countries in the world, they need a total condemnation and a forcing, I'm underlining the word forcing, of the elimination of anything to do with those wet markets and also the testing procedures that were going on over there with these viruses. These people in China, the scientists, caused this oops. And I said it before, I'm going to say it right now again. I condemn and damn the government of China for this happening. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you there. And it's been reported that America give $3.5 million to that research center as a grant.
Yeah. I think it was back in, I could be wrong on the year, but I think it was 2002. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, but why, let me ask, why does American taxpayer have to give a grant to a communist country to study viruses?
Yeah. You know, explain something to me, and there's been a lot of books written on this subject, a lot of fictional books which are very unfortunately coming true. And the study of these viruses, kind of a clandestine behind closed doors, and there were stories about off the east coast of New York on an island about the testing of animals with various sicknesses and viruses, etc., which eventually did pan out to be true. This thing is got completely out of hand. Mankind will find all evils to hurt mankind, and right now this one is devastating.
Well, yeah, but what it does, it takes anybody. It doesn't care who you are.
That's right.
If you're the one that put it out there, I mean, how are you going to be immune to it? Unless you've already got the immunity deal and you've, inoculate the people you want to survive and then turn it loose on the world.
The sadness, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, the sadness of what's happening. And a lot of people aren't realizing how much they have lost. Us, you're not my age, you're quite a bit younger, you're still wearing short pants. But all of us have missed and lost something that we can never regain, never, because of these closures. It's not just money. It's associations with people. It's going someplace. It's enjoying life that we are here on this earth to enjoy and thank our Heavenly Father for. Those things we can never get back because this period of our life has been a total waste.
Exactly. And the poor people now that have to go to the hospital for other reasons, and the funerals that are happening now when families can't get together to support each other to mourn a loss. I mean,
yeah.
That right there is heart-wrenching.
And what you just said, Doug, is something that I've thought a lot about over the last couple of days and have not addressed that. But, on our 10:30 funeral report, memorial service at a later time, or there will not be a funeral, etc., all because of the coronavirus and everything. Look at the lack of being able to say goodbye.
Exactly. I mean, you can't go visit them the last few days, especially if they're in the hospital.
Yep.
You can't go say goodbye to them and thank them for all the wonderful memories you're going to carry on. And then when they do pass, your family, the close people to them can't get together or shouldn't get together to support each other, or it's what they're recommending. I mean...
Well, there's no time for a grieving or a remembering.
Right. And how can you give somebody a hug when you're 6 feet away?
Yeah. My heart just goes out to this whole situation, and it goes right back to what I said earlier. We have lost so much because of a country that doesn't care. They are the lowest of the low when it comes to human rights, as far as trying to perpetrate human rights and make things better for their citizenry. They don't care. They never have. China absolutely needs a good slap in the face over this, and I condemn them.
I do too. I mean, and I personally, this is my opinion, and I'm sure there's other people that'll disagree with it, but let them show the facts out that proves me wrong.
Yeah.
And I've stated before that in December they had to have the vote for impeachment before Christmas break. The virus was announced during Christmas break. They were doing the impeachment in January when President Trump was stopping the people from coming in.
Yep.
And who gets to gain from this economy going in the tank?
Well, I think the answer is obvious because we're less than 6 months away from a major election.
Exactly. And what have they been saying for 3 years?
Yeah.
That Bill Maher, or whatever his name is, I can't stand him half the time. He was saying he was praying for a recession to get President Trump out.
Yeah.
They've tried everything else. I wouldn't put it past the leaders back there, Pelosi and Schumer and Democrats, getting together with China and saying, hey, release this at this time so that we can give a double slam to the president. We can take the economy down plus trying to impeach him.
I cannot criticize you for your thoughts because you have a right to your opinion. I cannot say that you're right and or wrong. Both of us have feelings, very strong feelings about what's going on, what needs to happen. My concern this morning is, to turn this into a kind of relativity for today, is at 11 o'clock this morning, Governor Little is going to make a statement, issue basically more thoughts on whether he's going to maintain a kind of a closure attitude or open it up. And I'm concerned. I know that I can't abide by any more of a closure. I don't want to lose my business. I don't want you to lose your business. I don't want anybody to suffer anymore with monetary loss or not being able to see their loved ones or go someplace. Go fishing, for heaven's sakes. I mean, I want to see this thing return, but over our heads is a dark cloud, a sinister cloud that was created by an evil, evil nation, and that's China. And my hatred is out of bounds.
Exactly. I mean, we got to be smart about this. But I have a question. Why? Okay, you shut down restaurants and barbershops and beauty salons, but why do? I'm not picking on car dealerships, but why can new car dealerships stay open selling cars?
The essential and non-essential, I think, is a bunch of hogwash. I said that, Doug, so many times on my program, it's old. I think that with proper precautions, whether it's wearing face masks, plastic gloves, whatever the case might be, practicing social distancing, I'll turn the question back on you, why did anybody have to close?
Exactly. That's exactly it. It should be, take our precautions. Like me, I've got hand sanitizer here. I go around, wipe things down morning, noon, and night. So, and I stay back. But it shouldn't be you have to and you can't,
That's right.
You can close. You have to close and you can stay open.
I've got to get a weather forecast on, buddy. I'm running so late, and I got a caller waiting, so thank you.
One quick thought for the day.
Hurry.
There are two things in life that you are in total control over, are your attitude and effort.
Amen. Thank you, Doug.
You bet. Hey,
all right.
Let's take care of our senior centers.
Amen. God bless you. Caller, please stay on the line. I'll be right with you, I promise. Give me 60 seconds. I want to get this weather forecast on right now, brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they are right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, with your hearing health. Absolutely. They provide expert diagnostic testing combined with the best technology to provide the most comprehensive treatments for your hearing health. Please call for a hearing screening. They will help you. I guarantee you they help me. 312-0957. 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's going to be breezy for today and some rain showers off and on. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are going to be in a wind advisory for today. Gusts as high as 40 miles an hour. Steady winds out of the west at about 20 miles an hour. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 55. Those showers could continue for tonight, possibly changing into snow in the higher elevations. Still, the wind is going to be a consistent gust as high as 45, possibly 50 miles an hour. We are expecting a low right around 28. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. The winds are going to be dying down, high of 48 with an overnight low of 22 by Friday. Sunny with a high near 57. Saturday, mostly sunny, mid-60s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Thank you very much, and brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Their phones are open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and they will answer all your questions and help you. 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Caller, good morning. Thank you for your patience.
And thank you for doing your show, Zeb. It's crazy that we have to have a cure that does more damage than the disease. It just makes no sense to me. Tear our country apart, destroy our economy, close down the hospital so people that have appendicitis and minor ailments can't be taken care of.
Yeah.
none of this makes a bit of sense to me. It's just absolute stupid. Stupid is as stupid does, I guess I might say.
Well, there are so many people that are suffering.
I could get a little handle on what our government is doing. I think they're just trying to put us out of business. I'll shut up. Get out of your way. You have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless you and everybody that are just listening. And hopefully we all get through this with as little damage as possible.
Amen, Jerry. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself, my friend. Please take care. I know a lot of people, including a lovely lady that fills in for me that was going in for knee surgery and has had to have that postponed and suffer through more daily pain because of this coronavirus and everything that's connected to it. And people are suffering, whether it's going in for tonsillectomy or a knee surgery or maybe a pregnancy problem, whatever. I mean, people are suffering in so many different ways because what has been thrust into the world airwaves, if you will, with this virus from China. I mean, all the testing and everything else that's going on right now to find solutions to this problem. Can you imagine where we would be and how wonderful and well off we would be had it not been for this absolute low evil country? And I'm not talking about the citizens again. Don't jump on me. I'm talking about the government of China and what they did and have allowed to have happen. I'm pointing my finger at them. Absolutely. Some of the doctors here in this country, one in particular that I remember from 2 weeks ago on a news report with Martha McCallum on Fox News between 5 and 6 in the afternoon, it keeps coming back to memory. This doctor, and I wish I could remember his name. I've been searching for it, and I cannot find it. I know I have it someplace on my desk. This doctor was asked by Martha McCallum, now remember, this is 2 weeks ago, about the use of hydroxychloroquine, the drug that has been here on this earth for over 50 years, treatment of malaria and other maladies. And this doctor came right out on the air and said, it's nothing but snake oil. He condemned it and said it was worthless, scoffed at it. And the look on Martha McCallum's face was such that, well, gee, we've already had proof that it works in various cases. Why are you saying it's worthless and snake oil? I'm a doctor and I understand what's going on, and this is nothing but a hoax. Well, yesterday at the White House, President Trump had some of the survivors of coronavirus. And they all stated, especially a Michigan state representative, a very, very well-educated, very smart lady that nearly died. And she said that had it not been for the hydroxychloroquine, she would have died. I don't know why. There seems to be on the left a concentrated effort to stymie and stop some of the scientific procedures that may help save people's lives. Caller, quickly, I've got a minute left. Go ahead.
Yes, Zeb, I was away from my radio again for a bit, but I just wanted to point out, how come there's not a whole lot coming out of people who have survived this and who have lived through it? And it's always the negativity of who's died and that they don't bring out who had it, recovered, or anything like that. And I'll let let you go.
Well, they did, Riley, yesterday. As a matter of fact, I commend and give thanks to President Trump for inviting. I think there were 8 people at a White House briefing yesterday that have survived the coronavirus and through the use of the hydroxychloroquine. And so, therefore, I, again, compliment our president. Caller, you've got 30 seconds. Real fast. Go. Caller, are you there? Evidently not. Wheels, at this time, before we go to the news, can we have this good word for the May 19th primary elections?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Representative Fred Wood to explain this year's voting by mail.
All citizens who are registered to vote will receive postcards by mail from the Secretary of State within the next 2 weeks. Please fill out this application to request your absentee ballot, then mail. When you receive your ballot, vote and mail according to instructions prior to May 19th. Please vote absentee ballot prior to May 19th, paid for Fred Wood campaign.
Thank you very much. We're going to run to the news right now from CBS. Be back in 7. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Zeb at the Ranch. And a good morning to you. Kind of a change in the weather again to where it's going to get a little gnarly and twisty and cold outside. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open and serving you. Safe, clean environment with the best in tires and service for your vehicles. Stop in and see them today. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Also, don't forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. And right now, Wheels has got this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at the Georgia struggle. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
You know, I feel so lucky that we have Western Waste not only as an advertiser, but also they're serving us to get rid of the garbage. I told you that I called and had a dumpster dropped off. Excellent service. Filled it up. They came and emptied it and got another one out here. By golly, we're into a lot of cleaning. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them today, 734-6969. That number again, 734-6969. I want to remind you, too, about some friends of ours, and we have been visiting at great length with Nick Greenwell and his staff over at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And they are still committed, more so than ever before, even through all this coronavirus scare, to serving you and helping you get back to being you. Whether it's the aching and paining and the recouping from surgeries or accidents, they are there. They'll even make house calls to make sure that you are taken care of. Please call them today. Find out more. 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Great, great people. When I say great people, that opens the door also for some more great folks that I know, and that's, of course, Joel Heward, his family and staff over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. And I've said this so many times that when there's the passing of a loved one, they absolutely provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please call 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. It's Wednesday, and I think the last couple of weeks, more than almost any other time before, I've looked forward to having this man on our program to kind of get some calm reasoning as to what's going on from a businessman standpoint back in the Midwest and find his thoughts and ideals as to what we need to do with this coronavirus scare. And I say good morning to Dave Bego. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. Hope you and Deanne are doing well.
We are, but there is where we're going to start the conversation. First of all, let me ask you this. Where do you stand, you personally, and your business, and your goals and ideals, where do you stand on getting back to work in America?
I think we need to get back to work. We're not seeing, the big pandemic in this state that, you're seeing in places like New York and California and the state of Washington and that. And I think that's because they get a lot of international travel. And, more and more from even people that I've heard that have had it, it wasn't that bad. And I think they're coming up with some medications to stop it. So we need to get people back to work and rebound our economy.
Has it personally affected, this coronavirus, affected you or any members of your large employment staff?
We've got a few people of our custodians that have picked it up, but nothing serious. And I got an email this morning from one of our managers that one of the people that works in their area that had it was released from ICU and is doing well.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. Now, let me ask you this, Dave, and I know that you listen to the news and you're very perceptive of what's going on. There are people right now, as of yesterday, last night, and again this morning, on the left side of the aisle that are saying, including Nancy Pelosi, oh no, why, we definitely are adhering to the fact that no one should go out and be a part of the world or leave their homes or anything until at least the chance of risk about the coronavirus is down to zero. And then another lawmaker out of California made the comment like, well, I think we should probably stay hunkered down until 2022. I about fell out of my chair.
Yeah, these, and I'm sure the California lawmaker was a Democrat, and this is all a political game coming into this election in November, and they're just trying to make everything bad and bring the president down because they want people to think, he let it come into this country, he hadn't done anything, and we've lost our jobs and all this kind of stuff, and this is all a political game.
But let me ask you about those two words, political game. With people dying, I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of people that have died around the globe in 180 countries. This isn't a game. This is absolutely sinister because of the total lax attitude and caring of China. I condemn and damn the government of China for this problem and the takings of these innocent lives. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I agree with you, Zeb. The Chinese need to be, put to a halt on this thing, and they have to be accredited for bringing this out and doing this world. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did it on purpose to gain control. And we need to expose them for what they really are. And but in the meantime, we still got to get our country back to work in that. And even the deaths we've had in this country are less than 1% of our population.
Yeah, and that's not minimizing anyone's life or trying to minimize the absolute horror of what's happening. But on the other hand, and Trump said this about a month ago, the cure is sometimes worse than the actual disease. And right now, we've got to get back to work. And I've maintained, and I want you to respond to this, when they start talking about essential and non-essential businesses, to me, that's garbage. Everybody is essential that's a contributing factor in our economy. economy. And if all the same precautions are taken, perhaps wearing face masks, perhaps wearing those plastic gloves, perhaps always acknowledging the social distancing for a while, why can't all businesses stay open and thrive?
I agree with you. Of course, there's going to be some businesses that won't do it, but we still, we got so much shut down in manufacturing and in other areas and retail and that we need to get it back to work and get people back to work. And I think the market in in March was down like 9.7% in sales, and I'm sure in the beginning of April it's even worse. And we got to build these companies back up and let our people in this country do the right things.
I absolutely applauded yesterday, and I applaud him again today, our President Trump, for calling up the managerial positions of the World Health Organization and telling them that, hey, by the way, our check is not coming to you this month until you clean up your act. What are your thoughts?
Oh, 100%. I mean, they're in bed with China, and people got to understand, a lot of the Chinese population are good people, but the problem is the government, it's a communistic government. And, the World Health Organization is hand in hand with them. It tells you what their politics are. They're communists, too, and we shouldn't be giving them a dime.
I want to change gears a little bit, and I want to ask you about politics and voting. Yesterday, Obama, it's kind of funny, finally came out and endorsed his former Vice President Joe Biden for the presidency, and Warren's going to probably do that again today. It seems like they're really going to push old Joe right now, Obama and Joe. And what are your thoughts about Biden and who he may name as a female running mate for the vice presidency?
Well, I think that the reason they want Biden in there is they feel Biden's somebody they can control, and they can run the country the way they want it to run, and just tell him what to do and how to do it. And I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you, if Obama's wife isn't selected as his VP.
When you say that, why do you say that?
Because, again, it's a control thing, and people have to understand that the far left, and Biden is not far left. I mean, he's kind of gone and said, we'll do some of these things now, but that's not his true stance in the past. And I think these people are pushing him in this direction and telling him what to do. And it's all about controlling him so they can take over this country and control this country.
Controlling this country, what I've seen and read the last couple of days, and I know you well enough after being on this program for years, is that you're probably as upset about some of these circumstances as I am. Governor Whitmer of up in Michigan, not too far from you, has been the leader of the pack in stupidity as far as I'm concerned by issuing statements that people can't go fishing except that they go in a kayak and they can't use a boat. People that own a summer retreat, a cabin up in the woods, can't go up to that summer retreat to get away from the maddening crowds. I mean, these kind of edicts, that's not the America I live in.
No, this is pure politics and stupidity, and but that's what they're trying to do because they want to control people. They're not just the government; they want to control people too. And it's sad when you have these type of people. And she's a potential Biden VP too, and it's sad when you see these things.
Why is it considered, and there was a story in our paper this morning, why is it considered that I'll lay the blame on me, we're called far-right radicals if we don't want anything to do with what's going on today as far as China having the development of any viruses? We don't want politicians telling us what we can do and can't do, and they've exceeded our Constitution and trying to change it during this pandemic. Why are we considered so far-right and radical for wanting to stand up what the law and the Constitution affords us?
Because that's who they are, Zeb. Their whole thing is to get in the heads of the a majority of citizens in this country, so that when we have the elections, they get people voted in. You know, Wisconsin just kind of did that on their judicial court person up there, and you know, it was a crazy thing, and it's basically voter fraud, and that's what they're trying to do right now.
Voter fraud. You've led me right into it. And there again comes up the name Michelle Obama. And she is heading up a group called When We All Vote. Please tell me, because I don't understand this, and I feel like I've been in this talk show business long enough to understand and perceive the good, the bad, and the ugly. How many people do you really think in this great country of America suffered from voter suppression and not being allowed to vote in the last presidential election?
I think it was very, very minimal, and but they use this because, you know, they're going behind the scenes to people like illegal immigrants and
yes,
people that haven't signed up to vote and everything. And again, Zeb, this is all about getting into these people's heads and brainwashing them and getting them in to vote. And of course, you know, they want to do mail-in ballots now and all that kind of stuff, and box ballots. You know, they've been putting those out across the country. And I'm trying to think of his name right now. The billionaire. He's
Michael Bloomberg.
He's been paying for it because he wants to get people to, whether they're registered voters or not, whether they're legal or not, to vote for the Democratic Party in November.
Right. You know, I maintain, and I'm going to say this very simply, my attitude on voting is you don't have an ID, you don't vote.
That's right. That's right. And who I was thinking about was Soros.
Yeah, George Soros, yeah. But, you know, why is it that all of a sudden if I come out on a talk show and I say you don't have an ID, you don't vote, oh, you're bigoted and mean-spirited and you're trying to suppress the vote? No, I'm not. I'm trying to have an honest vote.
That's right. And you're following the laws of this country. And you know, here's the thing, and there was an article about being signed up to vote and all that you have to have voter ID and that around the world, that's a big thing in all the countries around the world, but they want to suppress it in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller. Quickly, you're on the air.
Well, speaking of voting and endorsements, and yesterday I heard a familiar voice from the past, which I could barely stand to listen to, with that cadence, endorsing Mr. Biden. And I said to myself, now what is the reason they're doing this? Is Joe really going to be able to hold up? I would say to myself, if Obama is endorsing Biden, and that means that Biden is going to end up being the nominee, or is there still going to be shenanigans in the end, and anything could happen, including Andrew Cuomo and whoever else? But I guess they think they're going to ride the horse with Joe. I mean, his gaffes, I mean, that man is done. His mind is cooked. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller if you would, Dave, please.
I don't disagree with him that Biden has got real mental problems and that. But again, I think they're using this because they'll get him elected and get him in the White House, and then they can kind of put him behind the scenes and control it. And they'll tell him exactly what to say. They'll write it out for him and everything else and what to do. And that's what this is all about. It's just another control issue by the far left.
Let me ask you this before we take another quick call. Do you agree, like I am going to tell you, I think it was foolish and foolhardy for Biden to say, I'm definitely going to have a lady running mate? That has really painted him into a corner right now, especially to the fact that who is going to be strong enough? And number two, he kind of basically eliminated Cuomo and some of these others. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you, Zeb, and it's just it's sad that we're trying to take people and move them from making the right decisions and saying the right things. Like Cuomo, he has supported Trump recently and what he's done for New York and stuff like that. But again, the left doesn't want to see any of this kind of thing.
Absolutely, you're right. Caller, quickly, I've only got 2 minutes left. Go ahead, please.
I'll be quick. 2 quick comments. One is about Joe Biden. I think they're setting him up for a fall because he's got a sexual lawsuit moving forward against him. 20 or 30 years ago that it occurred. Second comment is even in those states, most of them Republican, where the state has come forward and said, if you want an ID, just a regular ID, you don't have to pay for it. Because that's been one of the big bugaboos for the Democrats is that a lot of these people can't afford to buy an ID. But even when the states move forward and say, well, you can get it for free, they still don't want it. Thank you. I'll listen off.
No, I appreciate your call, caller. Dave, respond to the caller, please.
Yeah, I agree with him on the ID. Again, it's just the far left's movement forward to get people in there voting for them, and they don't care if they're legal or not, or they have IDs or whatever. And as far as Biden, I think there's a chance that could happen. That because of his problems, that they could probably try and get him out of there as far as the person running for the Democratic Party. But if they do, it'd be interesting to see who they stick in there.
Tell me quickly, and please, I'm just an old cowboy from Idaho, but where can you really go in this world today? Whether your niche in society is living in southern Idaho or back in Indianapolis, Indiana, or Sacramento, California, where can you really go and exist without having an ID?
Well, that's the case. And this is the thing that they don't get into. You need IDs to forget driver's license and other things, and they don't want to do that kind of stuff. And every state you go to, you've got to have these type of things to get your driver's license and other things. And no, they're all concentrated on the votes for this November.
Absolutely. Quick call, 30 seconds. Good morning. You're on the air. Quickly.
I just thought I'd follow up his question about who would replace Biden with the idea that they're grooming Cuomo to take over for him. I believe that's what's going to happen.
Could be. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, it's a possibility, and if they do, we'll see. I think Cuomo will be more center stage for the Democratic Party than the far left, but it'll be interesting to see where they go with this thing.
Oh, my goodness. By the way, I was going to ask you, I saw a gentleman on the air again this morning. I think he resides in your city that does a radio talk show, Tony Katz. Is that one of the programs you're also on?
I've been on it. I haven't been on it in a while, though.
I see. I was just curious. They said his name and the location, and I thought perhaps you'd been on there, and I knew you had said something in years past. Dave, thank you for coming on the program. You are always welcome here. The doormat's open, and the bottle of wine is on the counter. Of course, I owe you for the next 27 years. And thank you for being on the program this morning.
Well, thank you, and you take care and be safe. Okay.
God bless. Thank you very much. Dave Bego, a dear friend of mine back in Indianapolis, Indiana. Very successful entrepreneur, and appreciate him being on the show. Wheels, may we please listen to words about the May 19th primary, voting by mail?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, to explain this year's voting by mail.
This year it's going to be a little different. You will be getting an absentee ballot request form in the mail. Fill it out. Send it in. Then the county clerk will send you an absentee ballot form. This is how you vote. Fill it out. Mail it in by May 19th. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to call your county clerk's office. Paid for by Bedke for Idaho.
Very well done. Thank you very much. And at 10:30 this morning, we're going to have more on that with Representative Fred Wood. Fred has been so gracious to come on the program, I think, for the last 3 weeks straight and talk about the voting for May 19th and then also the coronavirus. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're closed on Mondays, but they're open Tuesday through Friday and Saturdays. And what they want you to know is that they have all your four-wheelers over at Let's Ride. Oh, my. When I say all, I would like to see the floor plan and the schematic on how to get this one in here, this one backed over in this corner, this one kind of adjacent to this one. They've got them all at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24, like I said, between Rupert and the World. And right now, they're featuring their service department, and they're offering 15% off on all service work to get you ready for this spring and summer. Give them a call, 436-4771. I'll repeat that, 436-4771. Let's Ride. It definitely is where the fun is sold. Another quick note about some folks that are right up the road from Let's Ride, and that's, of course, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. My. You don't want to hang yourself out to dry without being protected. Your family, your business, you bet. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more with Todd and his staff over at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Now, what do you do? What do? You call the number 436-4424. Make an appointment. They do the rest. Absolutely. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Right now, let's go to the phone line. And I have the absolute respect for this man and his organization and how they stand up and stick their chin out and say, hey, wait a minute, listen to us. And that's, of course, RCAF USA CEO Bill Bullard. Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Glad to be here. Doing fine, thank you.
Looks like up in Montana and here in Idaho and other parts of the country are going to be returning back to winter in the next couple of days.
Yes.
Bill, I wanted to ask you. Bill, I wanted to ask you this morning. A couple of years ago, you were on my program extensively, and you and I both shared the same worries and complaints against the RFID ear tags and the danger and kind of the clandestine attitude it presented to all livestock owners. Where are we with the RFIDs?
Well, that battle, as you described, occurred back in the mid-2000s, and the government wanted to force every cattle producer to begin using RFID technology and to register their property, their premises, with the federal government as a condition to being engaged in the cattle industry. And the industry fought back, and we won. And so in 2013, the government retracted its efforts to try to force this mandate upon the industry, and they issued a rule that said, well, we're going to improve animal identification and disease traceability by requiring all adult cattle that cross state lines to be identified with some means of animal identification. So producers were given the option of using brands, tattoos, back tags, metal ear clips like the brucellosis clips and the bright tags. They can use RFID ear tags, or they could use group lot identification. So producers were afforded by law to have flexibility and choices as to how they were going to meet this new requirement to identify individual animals in interstate commerce. And that's what we settled upon and agreed to, and what the government did. Then, lo and behold, in April of 2019, the government, unbeknownst to us, had convened a committee consisting of ear tag manufacturers and government animal health officials and some other private individuals who were working on how do we force the RFID mandate upon an industry that doesn't want it. And the solution was they issued a fact sheet in April of 2019. And that fact sheet said that they were going to phase out the use of metal ear tags in 1 year. In the next year, they're going to phase out all other ear tags. And by January 1 of 2023, every cattle producer that wanted the privilege of shipping cattle across state lines would be required to register their premises with the government and affix an RFID ear tag on every animal. When we saw that, we knew immediately that the government was overreaching, that the government was violating the law. So we filed a lawsuit on October 4th of 2019, and within a matter of weeks, the government folded. It withdrew its mandate. It told the court that it had voluntarily withdrawn the mandate, so our lawsuit should be dismissed. Well, the court agreed with the government and dismissed the lawsuit on the grounds that the government had corrected its unlawful action by withdrawing the RFID mandate. But then we realized that the government had been relying upon a hand-picked committee to conduct research and do studies and make recommendations and help to develop the policy with which to implement that unlawful mandate in April of 2019. So we went back to the court very recently, and we said that the government relied upon secret unlawful committees to further its efforts to force this mandate upon the industry, and we asked the court to prohibit the government from using the fruits from the poisonous tree, from using any materials that this unlawful advisory committee had produced in order for the government to continue moving forward in its efforts to force this mandate upon the industry. So this is a huge battle, and it affects the liberties and private rights of every cattle producer in the United States. And so far, we're winning. But we've got to continue winning this one, because this is very, very important.
Bill, go back and clarify some of the points of interest for my audience. Would you care to tell me and explain to me when they say registering premises? What do they mean by that, and why?
Well, because that was a part of the original program, and that was that you had to register every plot of land that you ran your cattle on, and if you were to move your cattle from one plot of land to another plot of land, you were then required to record and report that to the government. That way the government knew where everyone's livestock was at any given point in time, in real time. So that's the purpose of the premises registration, in order to associate the animal's ear tag with the particular property owned by the individual producer, and then to track and monitor the movements of that animal by causing the producer to have to report each time the animal is moved from one registered location to another. I mean, this is Big Brother to the nth degree. And this is why the entire industry stood up against the government. But they have to recognize that there are some very powerful interests here. Multinational companies that manufacture these ear tags stand to make billions of dollars if the government will force the industry to use them. And that's why they have been pushing aggressively to get the government to follow through. And this is very dangerous for producers.
Let me ask you this, Bill, and with your knowledge on this subject, I think you're one of the most articulate to explain all this. Are there plans also to include any and all livestock, i.e. hogs or sheep or dairy cattle and horses? Are all of those falling under the umbrella of more control?
Well, absolutely. Though they're not on the front lines right now, because they all were included back in the mid-2000s when the original push by the government and the ear tag companies, they did want to ear tag everything. One of the problems, of course, they couldn't figure out how to ear tag a chicken. But nevertheless, that is the ultimate goal of the government. And right now in the cattle industry, for example, they wanted to require that ear tag to be affixed at the time of birth for every head of cattle that were born and raised in every state of the union. And we were successful in pushing back sufficiently on that, where they said, okay, we're not going to require feeder cattle at this time. Right now, we're only going to focus on adult cattle crossing state lines. So the government's objective is to eventually include cattle of all ages and to later include all species of livestock that are farmed animals. So this is a very real and ongoing threat, and we have to realize that the government knows and the multinational meat packers know that all they need to control how every individual cattle producer produces cattle, what they need is a proper level of market concentration to restrict access unless producers comply, and then they need full RFID traceability and require producers to hire a third-party auditor to verify that they have met the specific criteria, the unnecessary social and environmental standards that they want to impose upon the industry. And once they have those two components, RFID traceability and market power and dominance in the marketplace, they can begin to control how producers produce their cattle. And we're getting close to that, and they're pushing hard. So we've got to push back harder in order to keep this kind of a inappropriate, liberty-depriving mandate from occurring within our industry.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, please. You're on the air.
Yes, it's not just a question, it's a statement. When they form these committees, whether it be federal government or state or whatever, doggone it, why can't we pick people who have been there and done it? You know, they want us to, they're just saying, we know what is best, and that is just wrong. Why don't we get people on these committees that have lived the life so that they know what the heck they're doing?
I appreciate your call, Keith. Thank you very much. And I think it's a good question. There are people wearing three-piece suits and wingtip shoes, Bill, that haven't got a clue as to what goes on the farm and ranch.
Well, and that's the interesting part of, there's a Federal Advisory Committee Act that requires transparency and diversity on those committees to ensure, as the caller said, that there are people on the committee who understand the industry. And the government started out that way. They first had diversity. Some of our members were participating on the committee, but the committee wasn't making the recommendations that the government wanted. So they disbanded that committee and formed a new committee, and they handpicked who could be on the new committee, and that new committee doesn't include anyone who had concerns about the violation of their freedoms and liberties with such a government mandate. So what they did was they handpicked a committee that consisted only of those who wanted to impose this mandate on the industry.
You know, Bill, if you'll think back when this was really a hot issue a couple of years ago and you and I were on the radio talking about this, I left the radio program one morning after having you on the air, and I went right to a meeting with then Governor Butch Otter, and I looked him in the eye and told him that the RFID tags were wrong, and I stood my ground and I would not weaken. What about other people? What about other breed associations, whether it's swine producers or whether it's the AQHA with the American Quarter Horse Association? Are they standing up and contributing to help fight this?
You know, right now it's RCAF USA and RCAF USA alone that's stopping this. We have not seen any other organizations come forward to assist us. So at this point, there's only one organization standing between the independent cattle producers and the government and multinational companies that want to control their industry.
I don't understand why all of a sudden brands are antiquated. I don't understand why farmers and ranchers are doing a terrible job today as opposed to 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. I don't understand other than the one 7-letter word, control. That's all the other side wants is control. Am I wrong?
Well, you took my answer away. I was going to say the same thing. You're exactly right.
I don't know what to ask after that. You agreed with me. What can we do? I mean, I'm in the horse business, okay? I have been a part of the horse business almost all my life, and it absolutely offends me to think that I'm going to have some bureaucrat tell me I've got to put an ear tag in my horse's ear. It offends me that they want to know if I go down the road 30, 40, 50, 120 miles to a team roping. It offends me that if I'm just kind of a hobby raiser of calves and some cattle during the course of the year, I've got to adhere to all these costly items. I mean, what can we do more so than what we've done?
Well, here's the problem, is that this is not just a United States effort. This is a global effort. This actually originated at the United Nations and through the World Trade Organization, which is a part of the United Nations, and through the World Organization for Animal Health. they came up with this policy that said all livestock need to be individually identified in order to facilitate international trade. So since that time, our government has been falling over itself to comply with this international globalization mandate to individually identify every animal. And that's what really sparked this whole effort, and that's what's fueling this whole effort. And so one of the things we have to do is we have to realize that globalization is harmful to our independence, our freedom, our liberty, and we have a president who's fighting that right now. We need to support that. We need to get out of the World Trade Organization. We need to start following our own U.S. Constitution and not ceding it to these foreign tribunals. But the battle is occurring right here on the ground in the United States of America. And so we couldn't get Congress to help us. We couldn't get the federal agencies to help us. So we're using our third branch of government under our U.S. Constitution to stop these agencies from overreaching and imposing unreasonable, unnecessary conditions upon producers that only add to their production costs but provide no opportunity, no promise of an economic reward for expending the additional costs, which means in a tight economic cost-price squeeze situation we're faced with today, this is enough to put producers out of business.
I think
this is a serious, serious issue. Like you indicated, very few organizations are standing up to defend the rights and freedoms of their respective memberships.
You know, I think I'd like you to elaborate just for a minute or two, if you could, the cost factor that you just alluded to a moment ago. I mean, with the cattle prices dropping through the floor and going lower, it's all the more tougher for people to try to make a living in the livestock industry. And then to incur these additional costs, what would the average producer be looking at if there is an average price or an average producer? What are you talking about costs added on to their yearly production fees?
Well, for the entire industry, they've calculated or estimated it would be billions.
Oh, my.
So the cost of the ear tag could range anywhere from $2.50 to $5 a tag. But then you also have to buy the electronic wand, the reader for those tags. Then you have to invest in the computer software program that will record those tags. And then for many producers, particularly out west, you know, they don't have corrals set up that every time they move cattle from one pasture to another. So you're probably going to have to build more infrastructure so you can capture each animal or at least run those animals through a chute to read the ear tag. So you're talking potentially billions of dollars of costs imposed upon the cattle industry without a promise of any returns in the marketplace. But I want to clarify, we have members that are using RFID technology today. And they're using it because they're involved in some branded type program that is returning a premium to them in the marketplace. And some of our members are being rewarded for doing that. We support that. What we do not support under any circumstance is for the government to mandate this technology upon every producer in the industry, whether it benefits them or not. And because by doing so, what they're doing is they're gifting to the packer this value-added system that some producers are currently receiving premiums for. And once the gift is made, once the mandate is implemented, all of those premiums will immediately evaporate because the packer will not continue paying premiums for something they are getting absolutely free because of a government mandate.
Absolutely. Bill, all I want to tell you is that you know you're welcome on this program anytime, and I will lend any and all support I can to you. We're talking to R-CALF USA CEO Bill Bullard up in Montana, and God's blessings to you. Stay well, my friend, and please come back soon.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Deb.
All right, take care. I remember all the programs that Bill and I had on this show in years past talking about the ear tags and everything, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous, senseless, and costly, and I will do all I can to fight it. I guarantee you that. We better get the weather forecast on here. Excuse me. And the weather brought to you this hour by our friends at Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. I'm telling you, the weather looks a little nasty out there right now. I'm seeing the clouds and the wind, and it's supposed to get gnarly, using the kids' term. Anyway, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. They've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. These people are good. They are the professionals. The professionals in tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, financial statement preparation, retirement planning. Oh, the list goes on, with offices in Burley and Rupert. The professionals, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's going to be breezy for today and some rain showers off and on. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are going to be in a wind advisory for today. Gusts as high as 40 miles an hour. Steady winds out of the west at about 20 miles an hour. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 55. Those showers could continue for tonight, possibly changing into snow in the higher elevations. Still, the wind is going to be a consistent gust as high as 45, possibly 50 miles an hour. We are expecting a low right around 28. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. The winds are going to be dying down, high of 48 with an overnight low of 22 by Friday. Sunny with a high near 57. Saturday, mostly sunny, mid-60s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Come on, Saturday. I'm looking forward to that. Our thanks go out for sponsoring the weather to Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. 2 locations, 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley, telephone number 878-7000, and 620 5th Street in Rupert, 436-5607. I know firsthand they do a very professional job of serving you at Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Yes, I listened intensely when you discussed with this gentleman that was just on. But what I said about people not knowing what they're doing, getting on a committee, reminds me of the story of the guy or the state who requested more cattle guards in their state.
Yeah.
And a few of these people in our Congress said, we don't want to spend the money because we'd have to have retirement programs for these guards and everything like that. In other words, they didn't know what they were talking about.
Well, anything...
We've got to educate our so-called educators.
Absolutely. Anything to do with agriculture. I don't care if it's raising potatoes or sugar beets or whether it's cattle out on the range or dairy cattle or a hog operation. Leave it to the people that know and understand and have made a living doing it. They know what's best. You can't take people from other factions of life, like we saw down in Florida with the hog raising operations, with the do-gooders of PETA and everything else trying to change the way they produce their hog operations, etc. You can't have people, excuse me, coming in and telling you how to run it when you know how to run it better and more humanely than they do. The same can be said for horse operations, sheep operations, whatever. I am sick and tired of the 7-letter word coming in, and that's control, by people that don't know a doggone thing about what they're talking about.
Thank the Lord that we've got people like Scott Bedke and Dr. I can't think of his name now, or Representative
Fred Wood.
These people have lived these things. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, for me to go and tell somebody that runs let's just use a flower shop, okay? I don't know the first thing about flowers, but I know that I want to try to control what they do, and I want to try to control what they make and what they earn and how they process and produce and sell. So I'm going to go in and try to tell them what to do. That's ludicrous. The same is true for people that might turn in my driveway and tell me how to take care of my rope and steers, my horses, and that type of thing. That's also ludicrous. But we've got to stand up and use common sense and let the producers, the people that have their boots in the dirt and other things, they know what's going on, and let them handle their own affairs.
You know, Zeb, it's like you turning your radio station over to me. I don't even know how to turn it on. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. But I'll make it up as I go along. No, that's not the way it works.
Amen. Keith, God bless you. Appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, I know you got a guest at 10, so I wanted to try to slip this in. Somebody said to me this morning that Scott Bedke took Brad Little to the woodshed, and I don't quite know if I know what that meant. And I'm going to just say one more quick thing. When Obama, endorsed, Joe, does that mean that they're going to just stay with that horse even though it might drop dead?
Well, wait a minute. Randy, I want to go back to what you said a minute ago about Scott. Don't, and I'm not trying to correct you on the air, but don't speculate or use speculative type statements without having bona fide fact. I don't want to get into a he said, they said. I don't trust anybody's hearsay. And somebody said, well, somebody is somebody. Name a name so we can call them and criticize them. But don't come on with speculative facts that are not facts.
Right. Well, the source was a pretty good one.
I don't care what the source is good or not. I want names. On this program, my dear friend, and you are a dear friend. Wait a minute, we're talking over each other. I don't want speculation. I won't stand for it.
Well, it was Bill Colley this morning.
Well, Bill has speculation. That's his problem. I couldn't care less about what is said or not by anybody else's talk show. I only care about my own, and I make sure that the statements I carry on my program are true and factual. And somebody said, well, I couldn't care less about what Colley or anybody else says.
Well, I'm not trying to bring it up. I just didn't know what it was even, and I didn't know if you knew.
That's why I don't deal in anything that I don't know about. That's the point I'm getting at.
Forgive me. I just thought maybe there was something that I missed or something, and I still don't even know what he meant, and I should have asked him.
Well, yep, there you go. You should have asked him, and you shouldn't have been listening. You shouldn't have been listening to him in the first place. I got to run. Thanks, Randy. Appreciate it.
Well, I agree.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break right now and go to the news from CBS. And I may have sounded a little harsh, but I don't like those statements. Somebody said this and somebody... No, name names and we'll call them and get them on the air to verify it. I don't like speculation. We'll be back in 7. Good morning and welcome back. Hour number 3 on a blustery, love that word, blustery Wednesday, April 15th. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open and serving you in a very safe, clean environment and the best in tires and service to your automobile. Stop in and see them today. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. And, of course, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, don't forget Greystone Crossing Senior Living. And they're located at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. And I want to really remind you that they have such a beautiful location for seniors. Very quiet, very nice, brand new 12-bedroom home. My goodness sakes, everybody's got their private entrance. And, of course, don't forget 3 meals a day, snacks, and, of course, housekeeping, local transportation. You better call and find out more. Call Matt or Kelly Wiggins at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979, and they'll set up an appointment to show you the facility at Greystone Crossing Senior Living, 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. I want to also give an acknowledgement to some friends of mine that introduced me to a saving program and also security program through the purchases of silver, and we started that about 3-4 months ago. 7K Metals, and I thank them for all their help. And you can build yourself your own financial security and future. It's a great savings opportunity and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. I urge you to call 7K Metals, and the people that I've worked with, and I urge you to call them. Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259. Use my name, tell them I told you to call, and find out more about silver purchases with 7K metals. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had this next man on our program quite a few times in the past, and then there was a little lull that we couldn't work with his schedule, he couldn't work with ours, and I felt bad because now it's such a treat to get him back on the air this morning. He is a physician and coronavirus analyst. Dr. Dennis Durrell, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Zeb?
I want to say it's been so long since I've talked to you. Did I mispronounce your last name? Please tell me.
No, perfect. Dr. Durrell.
Okay. You are a blessing to have on the air this morning, Doctor, because nobody would be able to give us as good of information as you can about the coronavirus, where we are today, and the status of getting America back to work. That's kind of a loaded, full question, but take it from there and give me some answers.
Well, I think that we certainly have not fared as bad as some of the models, which is a great news. And, I looked at cities like Seattle. I look at New Orleans now. I look at Chicago, Detroit, and New York. New York got very close to capacity, but never got over that. So the first thing that I think we should acknowledge is that, yes, we had a lot of cases. We'll have more, but we never reached that point that Italy did, and parts of Italy and other countries where they were literally overwhelmed and people were sharing ventilators. So I think we probably have been able to match our capacity, which is great news. And I think in certain cities we've hit our peak and we're on the way down. Other cities, not yet. And I think social distancing has done its job. Now the question is how to unwind and how to get back to normal. And my general response is that we can't treat this like one weather storm, like a snowstorm that hit the entire U.S. We have to treat this like a storm that hits the Northwest and maybe New York. And we can't do the same thing in every place because this is going to be regional. It's going to have different levels of the disease, different populations. And so we're going to have to be smart and nuanced as we unwind it.
Dr. Durrell, at about 11 o'clock this morning, our governor of Idaho is going to come out and we're going to hear whether he's going to extend the 21-day stay at home or if he's going to say it's time for Idaho to get back to work. What are your thoughts on this? I said earlier, 4 weeks ago, when this pandemic was really rising to a crest, I said that when you start naming essential and non-essential business, that is not correct. Everybody is essential, and if we all took the same precautions, why can't we all stay working? What are your responses to what I just said?
Well, I think you bring up a great point. I mean, Florida just said professional wrestling is essential, so I think it's very hard to start talking about what's essential and what's not essential. I think that we have to be smart about doing it. I think that if you can work from home, it's fine to work from home. I think that's reasonable. I think that if you have an elective surgery and you have a low prevalence in your community of COVID-19 and your hospital is not overwhelmed and you have plenty of protective equipment, why are you not doing those things? So I agree with you. It's got to be a case by case, and I don't think we can really use a broad brush in what is essential and not essential.
You're an expert. I'm not. But I read a lot, I listen, and I write, and I keep notes, copious notes on what's going on with this virus. Is it, the virus, something that will stay with us and all of mankind for the future to come, or will there be a possible eradication?
Oh, I think it'll be eradicated. I think it'll fizzle down. This is what happens. We've seen this with other strains of coronavirus. If you look at the MERS outbreak in the Middle East, if you look at the SARS outbreak, so these viruses come and they go. We're going to need some help with that, though. We're going to need a good treatment, which we don't really have yet. We're going to need a good vaccine, which I think we will have before the end of the year. And I think that if we use social distancing and unwind this in a smart way and test for antibodies to see who has it and who's immune, once we get to a certain immunity in our population, the virus has no one to spread into, and then it kind of fizzles away. And the other thing is that it looks like this virus stays pretty constant, so it's not mutating a lot, and that means a vaccine will last for quite some time. And so I feel pretty good about the future. We've just got a way to go.
Okay, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned this in the last hour, and I've said it before. And Wheels, by the way, turn it up in my headsets just a little bit, if you would, please. There was a doctor on television on Martha McCallum's show on Fox News, and he denigrated and absolutely considered hydroxychloroquine as a snake oil and said it doesn't work. And he laughed and scoffed at it. Well, other doctors are not scoffing at it. Other doctors are not laughing at it. And yesterday at the White House, President Trump had survivors of the coronavirus that had taken specifically the hydroxychloroquine, and it worked. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the jury is out. You know, there's been about, 8 or 9 studies, some from France, some from China. And, of course, we're really waiting on the data that we should get out of New York now, because we've been aggressively putting people in clinical trials. So I say the jury's out. But what will I tell you? Some of those studies were positive, some were negative, and we're going to really need more data, and it should come very soon. However, most of the patients that we're seeing in my practices are getting Plaquenil or hydroxychloroquine at this time, and I think most people are saying, what's the risk-benefit? If it could possibly help, until we know the data, then we should use it, and I think that's what people are doing today.
What about the elderly, Dr. Durrell? And I'm going to lump myself. Caller, stand by just a minute. I'll get right with you. I want him to answer this question. I'm an old man. I'm 72 years old. I had a heart attack. My wife has got a problem health-wise. We're of the elderly set, if you will. What are the dangers that we still have to live through? Because I'm sick and tired of living my life in an eggshell for the last 2 months. Good Lord only knows how much time I've got left, and I don't want to live it in my basement. What are your thoughts about the elderly?
Well, there's no doubt that age is a risk factor. We know that, and mortality or your risk of dying goes up with age, particularly if you're over 80. But again, that has to do with your physiologic age, not your real age. So if you're in decent shape and you're active, you're going to do better. But if you do have hypertension or high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, lung disease, you're certainly at risk too. So my advice, and, I'll give you the advice that I've given my mom, right now, unfortunately, it is the best thing to shelter in place if you are at high risk. I would say if you're going to go out, you should wear a mask. And I think that's something that people are not doing. And the reason for that, Zeb, is there's a lot of asymptomatic patients. So there's people walking around that have it and that don't know. Mm-hmm. And those studies now have been shown in New York. They tested pregnant women, all the women coming in. 14% were positive, didn't know it. Boston tested a homeless population, and 30% were positive and didn't know it, had mild symptoms. So I think if you're going to go out, you need to be very careful and wear a mask. And I wish I had better news, but, until we have a better handle on it in older population, I don't like to take a lot of risks.
All right, we have a caller with a question. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly, please.
Well, okay, I'm going to just say this, and then you're going to tell me what you think. Quinine and zinc, and if you can't get quinine, you can get it from Schweppes tonic water and zinc, and I know that, I don't know for sure, but that's one of the things that the doctor has said. And then herd immunity. Why is California not suffering like New York and other places? Because it's been floating around the country for longer than anybody thought, maybe since November. And California seems to just be immune. And I would think herd immunity is a real thing. I'll hang up.
Doctor, address the caller's comments, if you would, please.
Sure. Well, quinine as a basis of the drugs chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine certainly is similar. So, that's going to have some mild effect if you believe that hydroxychloroquine has an effect. So so I am all for drinking tonic water. That's not a problem. I currently am taking a multivitamin supplement that has zinc in it. As probably most people know, the studies in China that use hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin also use zinc. And so I'm taking zinc and vitamin C just as a preventive. In terms of, so I'm all for that, and I think that's something that we should do. In terms of herd immunity, it looks like we need about 70% of the population to have had it or become immune to reach the peak to be herd immune. I don't think California is at that stage. However, I agree with the caller. I think many more people in California had it than we know, and we'll find that out by antibody testing.
Dr. Durrell, I'm going to point my finger with complete condemnation at China. Complete condemnation. But I want to be as fair as possible and ask you as a doctor, have we, the United States, and our scientists, our researchers, and our doctors, have we done a good job in combating this virus?
Yes, I think we have done a good job. We'll have Monday morning quarterback later. The things that I do consulting for a company that has a test for COVID-19, and they interviewed me on February 11th, and they were asking all their consultants, should we develop a test? They have a test for influenza. And I said, absolutely. Now think about that. That was February 11th. Now that test is available. The results are back in 45 minutes. So I think we could have done better with testing early. I agree with that. But I think other than that, we've had a pretty good response from our scientific community.
What about the president? I don't mean to play politics with you, but I think it's a question that is a fair question. I think President Trump being thrown into the fray with all the other problems he's had to endure during his presidency, the Mueller report, the impeachment, and everything else, and now with the coronavirus, what about President Trump and his handling of this situation?
I think right now, he's doing a great job. I think early on, I wish that he had been more proactive. But, I watched his press conference yesterday. He was making sense to me. He's going to use the science. He's going to let the governors of each state make the decisions. And he's going to overrule it if he doesn't agree, which means preponderance of caution. So I would say now, the only thing I would critique President Trump on is I wouldn't push hydroxychloroquine quite as much yet until we get more data. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just looking for the data out of New York, and then I'll be more confident.
And there's two other people that I wanted to ask you about because they are members of your profession and highly respected, and that's Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx. Do you feel that they are the epitome of what needs to be standing at the podium, or are there others that should be also involved?
Tony Fauci, I did extra training in infectious diseases at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And at that time, I was treating a lot of AIDS patients, and he was the guru of infectious disease. He's the guru of vaccine development. And, I trust his scientific mind 100%. I cannot doubt. Do I think he understands all of the ramifications of opening a country, the socio-political and economic implications? No. And I think that's where we need more epidemiologists. And so I think the two of them as a team, I think they're doing fine. And, I think that there are some other experts out there that I certainly think are, Scott Gottlieb, who used to run the FDA. I think he's got some really good information about testing and unwinding the lockdown. So I might, I like Scott, and I think he's got some good ideas, too, and so I might pull him in on that.
As a coronavirus analyst and a doctor, what are your fears that all of a sudden this thing is going to roll around and creep out from under a rock again in the near future? Let's say coming into next fall, the flu season, and combined with the flu, we're going to be having it rear its ugly head again. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I do think it's going to come back. There's no doubt. It's not going to go away that quickly. However, I think we're going to be better equipped in the fall. And if you look at the 1918 epidemic, it was the countries that got it later, or the West Coast versus the East Coast, that the mortality was less. So whether the virus mutated or something changed, it seems that the longer you go with time in a pandemic, the mortality decreases. And so I think time is our friend here. And if we have a treatment and we understand the treatment and we can use it, and I have good hope for a drug called remdesivir. That's the preliminary data in New England Journal on last Friday looked pretty good. Again, it wasn't randomized controlled. So I have hope that we will have a vaccine, and I have hope that we'll have treatment, we'll have better testing, we'll be able to see who's had it and who's immune, and therefore we're going to be able to really have our second shot at doing this, much, much better.
I need to ask you also, again, regarding politics and money. Yesterday, President Trump came out and said to the World Health Organization, you'd better clean up your act and do things in the correct fashion, and until you do, we're going to hold money from the United States. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's appropriate to be critical of the World Health Organization. Certainly, we know how they really didn't do a great job with Ebola, and we saw how they were late to respond. I would say that we can critique them the same way this time. And I don't understand the economics well enough about the WHO to decide about giving them money or not giving them, but I certainly think holding them accountable and being critical of them is very important right now.
I think in the beginning of our conversation we touched on this, but I'd like you to elaborate on it a little bit more at the very end. Economically, America, in my opinion, has got to get back to work. I honestly feel for all the accounts and all the corporate people that I work with on a daily basis, our boot heels are on the edge of the cliff, ready to fall into the abyss. We've got to get things rolling again in this country because there's not going to be a second chance. Once we lose America and its working force and all the good things that contribute to the economy, we'll never get it back, in my opinion. Your thoughts?
Well, I think money is not more important than life, but I would ask someone to give me all their money and see how their life is. So I think it's very important economically to get moving again. That has so many consequences for well-being. Just think about if you lose your job, you've lost your insurance for most people in our country. So now one small thing that we're doing to protect people can have so many downsides. So where we can, in a smart fashion, we should get moving again. That is critical. I couldn't agree more. And there are states that have much, much less of this. And we should be able to do this and unwind it in a really methodical fashion.
You've written the book called Your Healthcare Playbook, Winning the Game of Modern Medicine. How is the book doing? And tell us, please, where can it be obtained?
So the book is doing great, especially now, because people need to really maximize their health. They need to maximize their health because that's their best way to combat this virus, is be in the best shape that you can. And so the book is doing very well, and you can get it on Amazon, and that's the best place to find it.
Dr. Dennis Durrell, you are a friend of this program. God bless you. Stay safe. Stay well. Please come back in the future if you would.
God bless you, Zeb, and any time. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Really enjoy having him on the program, and there was a time he was on quite frequently, and then all of a sudden, I guess because of schedule changes and everything, we had to curtail, and I got a note saying that he was available to come on the program, and I appreciate him. Dr. Dennis Durrell talking about, of course, the coronavirus. Okay, where are we at? I want to remind you about, and I've got to get my papers over here, our friends at Patterson's Electronics. Oh, hello, Curtis and Lorena. I know they're busy serving you with all your electronic needs. You know, are you looking for a new television set? Well, if you are, they offer the choices of Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, great selection. And I'll tell you what, they've got all the home theater systems. Come home, kick your feet up on the Lazy Boy and just enjoy. And they've got all the video surveillance cameras. They've got all the car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems. They're the place for all your electronics needs. Absolutely. Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. They are open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. And the telephone number to call, 678-6997. Don't forget, Patterson's Electronics. Wheels, could we please have this good word for the May 19th primary election?
Idaho's primary election is on Tuesday, May 19th. Here's Senator Kelly Anthon to explain this year's voting by mail.
The outcome of every election we have is determined by who shows up to vote. This year, Idaho's primary election is a mail-in only election. It's not ideal, and it's not the way we'd like to do it. But your vote does make a difference for all of us in Idaho. So please, first request a ballot, then mail it in, and make your voice heard. This message is paid for by the Anthem for Idaho Senate campaign.
I'll tell you what, we appreciate Senator Kelly Anthon, along with Representative Fred Wood and Speaker Scott Bedke, doing those commercials for us. And I also want to take some time quickly and tell you about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Now, they are being tough. They're hanging in there, and they're serving you with limited hours, and they urge you to call them at 878-2341 and say, hey, Jeff and the crew, can we come down and check out a brand new recliner? Can we check out the lift recliners for those of us that have a little trouble getting around? Check out all the sofas, all the carpet, all the mattresses, everything. Please call them. They want to work with you any way they can. Wonderful people that are dedicated to serving you at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Number to call, 878-2341, and they're located at 459 Overland in Burley. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Right now, let's send it over to Wheels. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Thank you very much. Don't forget Vicky's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Every Monday at 10:30. Don't forget they're going to be on. And Vicky's going to be telling us how to better grow our gardens and take care of our shrubbery and our trees and our lawns, all of this at 10:30 on Mondays. Vicky's Country Garden. Number to call, 438-5663. There is a man that has been so dedicated to serving us, the constituents of Southern Idaho, and then also especially serving this program, and I find him to be very educational, very forthright, and honest on everything he's done on this show, and I appreciate him as a representative. Representative Fred Wood. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you? I'm cold.
Well, I tell you what, these 70-degree days last week and now this, I mean, who said fat people don't get cold?
Well, I don't know, but I can. I'm old and I'm getting cold. I was out trying to get the pasture irrigated this morning, and man, that wind is there's a little bit of bite to it.
Absolutely. Fred, I got to get right into things this morning because of time constraints, and I want to ask you, first and foremost, we're going to talk about two specific subjects this morning, but they are intertwined. First of all, tell me your thoughts. I know it's speculation to some degree before he comes on at 11 o'clock and tells us what he's going to do, but Governor Little, the coronavirus, and the stay-at-home, what do you think's going to happen?
Well, I think what's going to happen is he's going to lay out a program of how we're going to get the economy going back again, the conditions on or under which he's willing to lift the stay-at-home order, how that's going to be done, and again, not to repeat, but I think it's important to. What conditions do we have to have in place to do that? And then, whenever that's going to be, when businesses start back, I hope that he lays out a plan of what businesses have to do to protect their employees and to protect the public, so that once we come out of this, that we don't start pockets of getting this coronavirus established again.
Absolutely.
I don't know what he's going to do for sure, but I suspect that that's what he's going to do. And like you and everybody else, I'll be listening at 11 o'clock here.
As a doctor and also a state representative, looking at the overall picture of what's happened, I don't care about other countries with what's going on now. I care about their deaths. I care about their cases. But right now I'm concerned about American citizens. As it stands this morning, where are we and what should we do, or are we ahead of the curve as far as treatment, in your opinion, as a medical doctor?
Well, I think you're asking that with respect to what do we do going forward. And I think the first thing we have to do, Zeb, is to make sure that the growth of this virus is tamped down to the point to where when we do lift the stay-at-home order, that we can control whatever happens. Secondly, and I was listening to the segment prior to this, and I forget the name of the doctor who was on, but I agree with him and everybody else, all of the experts, wholeheartedly when they say this. We have to have the ability to identify, surveillance, and trace contacts from patients who come down with coronavirus going forward before we can lift this stay-at-home order and before we can get all of our businesses back to work. What that means is that we have to have the testing capability that anybody who tests positive, we have to be able to identify that within 24 to 48 hours. And then we have to have the manpower to find out who they've come in contact with in the last week and be able to contact those people and test those people and isolate the people who are capable of staying home, but we have to isolate them so that they don't start infecting other people. As soon as we have that capability, then we can get back to business. And I don't think in Idaho we're very far away from that.
Let me ask you about the testing, though, Fred.
Are going to need lead time of a week or two to start educating up their employees and start educating up the patrons that are going to come into these businesses. Zeb, that doctor a little bit ago was exactly right. And one of the things that really disturbs me is I don't see nearly enough people in Cassia County wearing masks.
Yeah.
Anytime anybody goes downtown, anytime anybody goes into a business, anytime I walk into a business, I want to see every single employee in that business wearing a mask, and I'm wearing a mask. I want to see everybody else in Smith's wearing a mask, too.
Absolutely.
They're just going to jeopardize you and I if they don't do that.
Well, I said on the program, and then I want to get into the balloting here in just a minute, but I said on the program in the last couple of days since I've had you on, and I said it even previously, that when you talk about essential and non-essential businesses, I found that to be very ambiguous because everybody's business is essential, and if we all adhere to the safe, healthy standards of wearing a mask, wearing plastic gloves, keeping a social distance, all the businesses, in my opinion, that are essential could have stayed open.
Well, I think you're probably correct. And along with that, okay, so when the governor lifts this stay-at-home order, whatever that's going to be, what should people not do? One, don't ever go to Blaine County for the next year. Two, don't ever go to Ada County unless you have to. Why? That's where the coronavirus is.
Right.
You know, the real problem and the fear is that when we lift the stay-at-home orders, people are just going to go hog wild.
Yep.
They're just going to start all of a sudden going wherever they want to go and without ever stopping and thinking, wait a minute, why would I ever go to Blaine County with the concentration of COVID virus there is there? Why would I ever go to Ada County unless I have to go there on business because of the coronavirus? We can do this, if people will just stop and think for a minute and use their head about what's going on. Most of the time, you're still going to want to come home. You're still going to want to stay with family, etc. and not unduly expose anybody else.
Absolutely.
You can do it. You're right.
Absolutely. We have a quick call. We're going to take that call, and then we're going to talk about May 19th. Caller, real fast. Go. You're on the air.
I think you forget that those of us with the ability to reason and logic are already doing that, and you're asking a lot for the percentage of people that aren't. Also, you want to see everybody wearing masks, but they're not even available. So who are you to say that just a regular T-shirt mask is adequate?
Yeah, that's a good question. What about myself personally, Fred? I wear bandanas almost 90% of the time. Is that adequate as a mask, if you will?
It's a whole lot better than nothing, Zeb. Anything that covers your nose and your mouth is a lot better than nothing, particularly with aerosolized drops. The best would be to take high thread count cotton sheets that are white and make your mask out of that, because one of the things you want to remember is you want to be able to wash all of these masks in Clorox at the end of the day. Throw them in the washing machine on the white cycle with Clorox and wash them. I see a lot of masks around, but they're all colored masks, and they're all cute and all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty hard to Clorox something like that, and that's what you really need to do to kill the coronavirus.
So back to my question, what does it do for us to let those people out in public wear those masks?
Wait a minute. Both caller, wait. Let Dr. Wood finish his statement, and then we'll add to your question. Go ahead, Fred. Finish up. He was overriding you there for a minute.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Go ahead, caller, please.
Well, I was just saying that's better than nothing, but it don't sound like it's adequate to most of the masks being used by people anyway.
Well, caller, I think that I think they're better than nothing. What is adequate? Well, I suppose that if you wanted to get very technical, probably only an N95 respirator mask would actually be the best. But I think that you can solve an awful lot of it with a good face mask. I don't think a T-shirt face mask is that effective. A handkerchief face mask isn't. I think you need to take into account the material it's being made out of and the amount of the face that it covers. The more of the face that it covers, the better off you are.
Yeah.
And I thank you for that clarification. That's what I was looking for.
All right. Thank you, caller. Thank you.
Think about, shouldn't we also be wearing eye protection if it's aerosolized? Fred,
did you hear that about eye protection?
But I think that's asking quite a little bit. I think that if everybody is wearing a mask, I think that you reduce the risk enough that we can get back to work.
Thank you for your call.
Information, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your call. Fred, I've got about 10 minutes remaining, and I've got to get right into this. The coronavirus also has changed the complexion of the May 19th primary. I'm going to let you pick the ball up at that point and tell us and explain, and then we'll pick it apart with questions, why we're having to vote this year by absentee ballot, by mail.
Okay, so the governor has determined that that's what we're going to do, and I support that. I think it's very important to remember the following. Idaho has always tried to have a very secure ballot system. We have been able to vote by absentee ballot for a good number of years in the state of Idaho, and a significant number of people do that. The way that process works is, and to make sure that those ballots are very secure, is that you, the registered voter, has to request a ballot from either the Secretary of State or the county clerk, in this case, Joe Larson, or Minidoka County, Tonya Page. Okay, that's who you have to get the ballot from. You have to request it in writing. Now, supposedly, the Secretary of State is sending out this week and next week a postcard that you can fill out and send that in to the Secretary of State, or you can get online and fill out a form and mail it in to the county clerk. and then you will receive your ballot packet in the mail. And when that ballot packet comes, it'll be comprised of a ballot and 2 envelopes. And you have to, the instructions are very easy to read, very easy to follow. You fill out your ballot, vote for whoever you want to, put the ballot in the first envelope, put the first envelope in the second envelope. You have to sign one of the envelopes. Make sure that you do that and go from there. But the key here, Zeb, is that you have to request your absentee ballot. And you're going to have at least 2 or 3 opportunities from the Secretary of State, from the county clerk, etc., that every single registered voter in the state is going to get a postcard that you can fill out and mail back in to request your absentee ballot. The biggest thing you got to do is just fill it out and send it in.
Fred, I'm going to ask you some questions that have been asked of me over the last couple of days since you were on the air the last time. And I'm going to very bluntly say, what about ballot security? Are you concerned about that?
I think if you look at, well, first of all, that is one of the reasons that we in Idaho, if you're going to vote absentee, you specifically have to request your ballot. And when the ballot packet comes, you will see that it is mailed specifically to you. There's, again, a ballot plus 2 envelopes, and you have to sign one of the 2 envelopes with your signature to attest to the fact that it was you that actually filled it out under penalty of perjury. Okay? So I've done this. That we did it just this past election cycle on the school bond. Scott and I, and I'm pretty sure Kelly, all of us voted by absentee ballot when we were in session up at the Capitol. And we requested the ballot. It came, and everybody who does that process, I think it's pretty apparent that that's pretty dang secure. It's as secure, certainly, as any electronic ballot form is.
All right, now we've had another question called in by numerous people over the last couple of days, and that is, of course, the May 19th primary election. And people are a little bit concerned, oh, well, I have to have my ballot in by the 19th when these cards are stating that they must be received by June 2nd. Would you please tell us about that?
Okay, and I don't have the law in front of me, but that's based on the following issue. Idaho has an exemption from the motor voter law, and the reason we have that exemption is because we allow people to register and request a ballot on the day of the election. Now, we wanted to preserve that exemption. So they can actually, up until and including May the 19th, they have until then to request an absentee ballot. Okay? Well, obviously, if they request it on that day, they're not going to get it mailed back to them on that day and fill it out and get it in. So, hence, that's why you have until June the 2nd. You have until May the 19th to actually request the ballot, and your request has to be in by the end of business on the day of the 19th, as I understand it. Then they have until June the 2nd to get it back to you, and you get it back into the county clerk to be counted. That's the reason for those dates.
Okay. We have another caller, and I'm almost out of time. Caller, quickly, you're on the air, please.
Yeah, I voted back in March in the Democratic primary, and I was trying to find out what is going to be on the ballot, at least in our area, in May, and is it something that I can still vote for, or is it just a Republican primary? And how would I go about finding out that information if you don't know? I'll listen off here. Thank you.
Go ahead, Fred.
Okay, if you remember on a primary ballot, it depends upon which ballot you request. If you want a Republican ballot, then you have to be a registered Republican to get that. If you are a Democrat, if you are a constitutionalist, if you are a libertarian, or if you are an independent, we have nonpartisan ballots, which are the judges, etc. And then if there are, I don't believe in Legislative District 27 or in Cassia County, there are any Democrat members on the primary, so I'm not sure there would be anything to vote for. Who can answer that question is I would call the county clerk's office.
Right.
Joe Larson's office.
Right.
If you live in Cassia County, if you live in Mendocino County, call the Mendocino County clerk's office, and they can tell you if there is anything to vote on. But I'm sure that there's nonpartisan ballots out there, so I would encourage everybody to vote in the primary that you're a registered member of, for the party that you're a registered member of, and at least request the nonpartisan ballot.
Okay.
The judges, et cetera, are on that.
Fred, I'm out of time, but I want to say this. I think, and I'm saying this right over the air, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think we're going to have to do this almost as a dedicated weekly segment on our show to emphasize to everybody about the May 19th primary election, how it's going to be done by mail and everything, and I'll be in touch with you to set up a time for next week. But the information that you gave this morning was outstanding. I commend you and I thank you. And, folks, I have a card that was sent to me this last week requesting your ballot. All the information's on there. On the flip side, it gives the easy as 1, 2, 3 what to do, how to request a ballot. Wait for the 3 to 7 days for the receipt. The ballot will be sent to you, and then vote and return. All of this information is there, but we'll have you back next week, Fred, and we'll talk more about it. Thank you, Representative Fred Wood.
Just let me know when, Zeb. Thanks, and God bless.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. He always does an outstanding job on the program, and I appreciate his taking the time to come on the show again this morning. Holy smokes. I want to give a lot of credit, and I mean this, to an organization, a business that has done an outstanding job of serving the public at a rough time, and that's Edith's Cafe. You know, they set up a deal over on Washington Street at 2500 Washington across from Faber-Cal so that the truck drivers going up and down that busy, busy street had some place to stop and get a delicious meal. And my hat is off, honestly, to Edith's Cafe and their management. They really are a contributing factor of making things better. And Edith's Cafe, of course, their headquarters located over at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley, and they're open Tuesdays through Thursdays 11 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays 11 to 9, and they have got delicious curbside service. I urge you to call. You cannot find better sandwiches and better meals and specials than Edith's Cafe. Please call them at 878-2248, and they're located right across from the golf course at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. Really, really nice folks. Time for the weather. And the weather is brought to us by our friends at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Hello, Don Scarrow and the crew. And, of course, you can call them on the landline, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website and check out all the delicious meats at scarrowsmeats.com. Oh, my. Bring on the bratwurst. That's my favorite. All the sausages and the bacons and the tri-tips and the hams and the pork ribs. And you name it, it's all there. It's all delicious at Scarrows Meats. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
It's going to be breezy for today and some rain showers off and on. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are going to be in a wind advisory for today. Gusts as high as 40 miles an hour. Steady winds out of the west at about 20 miles an hour. We are expecting rain showers off and on throughout the day. Mostly cloudy skies with a high of 55. Those showers could continue for tonight, possibly changing into snow in the higher elevations. Still, the wind is going to be a consistent gust as high as 45, possibly 50 miles an hour. We are expecting a low right around 28. For tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. The winds are going to be dying down, high of 48 with an overnight low of 22 by Friday. Sunny with a high near 57. Saturday, mostly sunny, mid-60s. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Gina, thank you very much, and brought to everybody by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Again, that telephone number, 324-7657. Oh, my. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarrows Meats. I want to thank you for listening. Tomorrow being Thursday, and yes, I'm going to be here tomorrow. The Chamber Report at 9:06. First hour, of course, open forum. Chamber Report at 9:06 with Penny Main, and then we're going to be talking to Nick Greenwell over at Burley Physical Therapy. And we've got Starving to Death, Cache County School Days. We're going to have Jeff on from Lee's Furniture. And then we're going to have at 10:30 a small business owner up in Boise that his business basically has come to a screeching halt. Brett Denton is going to be on the air, and we're looking forward to hearing from him. We always wrap up the program by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be, and that so much is the truth today, especially in the last four words that we say every day, in God we trust. Hang on to your hats. Don't go chasing down the highway after your Resistol. It's going to be windy out there today. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch. God bless.